You got the touch. You got the
Arise, Rodimus Prime.
Optimus. Yeah!
Hello everyone, Dan14 Prime here. I want to do a video share out with you guys on the Takara masterpiece MP-9 Rodimus Convoy, aka Rodimus Prime as we know him here in the States. This is the 2018-2019 reissue of this notorious figure. Notorious, if you don't know, because though brilliant, I think, in engineering and in aesthetics, it had some just design and quality issues that caused it to even break a lot for people. And it went through a couple versions of V1 and V2 in its initial release. But I was very happy to see the reissue. We don't have a lot of Rodimus Prime options, which is really why you'd be looking to pick this guy up in the masterpiece scale. And even to today, this figure stands the test of time, and you'll see that in some comparisons to more recent figures like MP-36 Megatron in this video. If you want to see some pics of the pack on this guy, check me out on Instagram, same handle, Dan14 Prime. If you're interested in picking this figure up, check the links in the description below. I'll provide some options out there. Be sure to check out my Amazon page as well, again, linked below. As always on the channel, if anything's ever helpful to you, easiest thing you can do to say thanks is jump through his links and pick up your figures, do any shopping you can. Supports the channel at no cost to you and is very much appreciated. Also in this video, though I don't have an original one to do exact side-by-side, I will go through some of those historical pain points on this figure and what my experience is in hand with this guy here in front of you. All right, let's jump in closer and check this thing out. Here we have MP-9 in his hot rod mode, the dual guns blazing, the goggles down, really a lot of what they later brought us with the standalone hot rod masterpiece figure. Even in 2019 today, the figure still stands up really well. I think it looks beautiful aesthetically. Obviously scale, primary complaint with this guy in hot rod mode, but standalone still really does look pretty darn good, I will say. Beautiful figure overall, and even by today's standards has all the articulation in it that you would need. I think he holds up pretty well. Here's MP-9 Hot Rod next to his reincarnated self with the separate standalone Hot Rod issue there on the right. And you can see obviously scale. Big difference. You know, they made it right over here in terms of how he should fit with MP-10. And definitely tweaked the colors, putting more of that pink purplish, I guess, type hue through the red to make it more kind of movie accurate, as well as some of the other coloring effects that you see there. But again, MP-9 is still a sharp looking piece, even more with that Rodimus red on there. I will say I'm just noticing MP-9, some animation models of Hot Rod had this section kind of as like a windshield piece. You actually see that better on MP-9. It's actually got some clear plastic over there, whereas you just sort of have the design over here on the newer Hot Rod MP. Then if we put MP-9 Hot Rod in here next to some of the old and the new, MP-10 there on the left. Obviously scale never did work even from the get-go. Got MP-36 Megatron over there on the right, much more recent issue. And then there in the front, the more recent cars, and particularly with Sunstreaker there, just trying to bring in some of the latest, what I consider impressive in terms of ingenuity, engineering with MP Megatron, MP Sunstreaker. It's only when you compare MP-9 Hot Rod to these very latest releases, I think, that you start to feel a little bit the age of the figure. But within the context of the whole line, MP-9 definitely still holds his own, scale aside, though today certainly is obviously going to fit mainly for your MP Rodimus. Let's give you a quick front pan of Hot Rod. I will say from this kind of chest-on view, maybe you're looking slightly up. It's hard to see the wings, but you can check that out. Again, nice color scheme, maybe not perfectly tune accurate. It's obviously set up for Rodimus, but still a pretty sharp-looking Hot Rod there. That crotch piece, which has got that kind of almost kind of plastic translucent across the crotch, which makes more of that window effect. Down into the legs and the thighs. Definitely still a sharp looking bot. Always packed a pretty clean profile too. Again, well engineered. Impressive for its time, pretty ambitious for its time. Given the issues with the figure, Takara kind of maybe backed off being so ambitious, unfortunately. But definitely a nice looking figure from all angles. Even the backpack and transformation that the new Hot Rod Carbot uses. You know, the backpacks is no better than what you see there in front of you. One complaint of MP-9 overall was he could never hold his guns that well, and though they did not fix the design flaw, I will say pegs, with the guns as well as all the other tabs. Just tend to, in mind, they're firm, they work really well, they're nice and snug. Had no issues with him dropping guns. Now you do need to position the hand the right way because, as I said, the design flaw is the gun has an angle to it. So if you really try to close the fist all the way around it, it basically pops it out. You can see how it pressures and pushes it out of the peg. And again, the hands, the pegs otherwise hold very well for me. The hot rod comes with a couple accessories here. He's got his kind of spinning saw blade, chop up some Sharkticons. And then he's got his little torch here as well to patch up Cup. And to use those accessories on either arm, you can just kind of flip out the forearm like this, hold up a fist, then kind of spin it upside down, and then just flip this piece around like this. And you get the attachment piece to come out. And then close that up. So here I've done both. I think my left looks a little better than my right, but then you just plug these in. So there you go. We have the blade. And then there we've got the blowtorch. Then you can get his goggles down if you just kind of pinch his ears and rotate. There, those come down. So if you want to swap out Hot Rod to Rodimus, the first and most impactful thing we're going to do is just swap out the helmet. So just pull that up, the faceplate I should say, push back the Hot Rod face, and then just close that down. Next up, you're going to elevate the shoulders. And sorry, sometimes I might have had those up already. They kind of do their own thing a bit. But those raise up just a smidge. Round back, it's very subtle, but you can lift that up like a 1/16 of an inch. It's not much at all. And squeeze these together. Look at that. A couple degrees. Minor tweaks. And then finally, you get them a bit taller, not much, but down here at the hip, this has a mechanism that allows it to shift down, again, slightly. Pull those down, get a little bit of extra height there. And there we go, ending up with the transformation into Rodimus Prime. And this is why you'd really want the figure. He still works, I think, in great scale across Optimus and the newer Megatron figure. Fits right in, and even to this day, me personally, I still prefer the Takara version here and fits in very well. We'll just do a quick pan here. There's that Rodimus face. Again, gets sort of a bit longer and narrower and older looking. And of course, the color scheme fits better for Rodimus. And again, not a lot really changed from, how he looked versus Hot Rod. A little bit of extra length right there by the hip, like 1/8 of an inch. And then the shoulders kind of being a bit higher. It's really about all you notice. Take a close look at the two Hot Rod guns, which combine into form to the big Rodimus rifle. These still look good even by today's standard. Nice, almost kind of gunmetal type color to them. Lots of good molding. And here we have the other one there. You get them side by side. And to bring them together, you just kind of stack them and push them in. Boom. Then you get this big, big boss. Would maybe be nice if that handle would have folded up or something, but like I said, Reissue, they didn't really change much of anything in terms of the mold or the design per se. But still a great, great, just monstrous weapon. And no different, but the peg is still good. And then, again, if you're careful in how you wrap that hand around, you can get a grip look to it. And again, steady, firm peg, but just check that thing out. In hand with the arm down, it practically touches the ground. Other accessory to show you is he still comes with the tiniest matrix of all time. This is the MP-10 matrix. It's a bit better if you actually want to kind of have him holding something. You can see some pics on my Instagram. Same handle, Dan14 Prime, and I have him holding this one. So this tiny matrix, can go into the chest here. This panel will flip down, and you can plug this tiny little thing back in there. Close that up. Let's take a look at this big Space Winnebago trailer here. This thing is, it's large, good size, especially in terms of just like the width of this thing. It's well done. I mean, the color works fantastically. It's got the yellow and orange striping on there. Classic flame for Rodimus, and you know, the rubberized kind of tires, chrome on the wheels and the pipes and everything. So very, very sharp looking. Just to give you another point of view on the big Winnebago trailer, tall as the figure, and as you can see, even wider. For the trailer here, there's a button up top. You just push that, releases the side of the side panels there, and just like the G1 toy, which I had as a kid and loved, pull out the big gun. And up top here, there's some handles you can kind of just flip up a bit to give Rodimus something to hold on to. Of course, here you can flip out the blast shields. And actually the screen here can kind of lift up as well. So it's kind of would be more in Rodimus's view. Also with the gun section, you can adjust the height of the turret as well. There we have this thing. I'll just give it a little bit of a spin. Again, lots of room inside the trailer there. Another shot of the profile, and then just to get you a bit into it, but lots of nice molding through there. Really nothing left undetailed in terms of at least some texture. And then when you're at the battle station here, you get a little bit of a screen. It's got some molding on it, just silver paint kind of all the way across it. There's lots of storage and many options for where to put the weapons and where to store accessories. 2 holes underneath here, so you can actually put the big blaster underneath like that. That's a play option for you. Alternatively, you could choose any one you wanted and put it up top. They'll both work up there. You can also put the guns here on the front corners of the base. Or you can swing it around back, and there's also tabs in the back, kind of bottom corners as well. And also for storage, Hot Rod's spinning blade can store right there. And his blowtorch can store right there on the other side. Let me quickly show you the articulation. His head can just move up and down. It's just on a ball peg, but it's grooved in there in such a way that it doesn't really move, tilt, that is to say, side to side. But of course, he can spin that all the way around. About the shoulders here, again, there's a transformation kind of cheat there. So you get something like that. You could ratchet those around 360 if you like. He gets a bicep swivel up here, which also is part of transformation. He gets a double jointed elbow. Gets you well beyond 90 degrees. Here at the waist, again, a transformation piece, but also great for bop mode. You can swivel the waist all the way around. The hands here is one thumb with a ball joint kind of at the base. And then he has his 4 fingers together with kind of 2 knuckle sections. One kind of mid finger and then one at the palm to make his fist like that. Let's not forget here lateral movement of the arms up. We'll go about like that as well. You had them down in hot rod mode, it's a little bit more difficult. Down into the legs, we'll kind of get the hip skirt up so you can see, but definitely good there in terms of the splits. There's a butt panel here you can maneuver. You can get the leg all the way up. Again, it's going to go back just about as well. You get a thigh swivel here, which has got a nice ratchet in it, also necessary for transformation. The knees kind of had a reputation at one point. You can be careful. I've been careful just not to kind of put too much torque on them on how you handle them. But a transformation piece as well that basically needs to fold up on top of itself. So you get good range of movement in the knee. Then you also get like a calf pivot here. And again, that's also a transformation piece, but is great for bop mode posing. Leg panels will sometimes, you got to kind of fix them up once you handle the leg sometimes. And then the foot down here, it's got like 3 different joints on it, so you can do quite a bit in terms of pushing it out. It's got a rocker on there, as you can see. So I think you can get a lot with the feet. The feet, for me, have just been probably one of the more fickle areas, oddly, in terms of the transformation and managing these, 3 moving pieces in there sometimes. So tons there for articulation, still the case. And even very good by today's standard. Now let me just take a minute here and I'll just go through some of the historical problems with this figure. I will say, like I said before, the figure I don't think has really been redesigned in any which way. It's a straight up reissue, but it has been my experience that like tabbing is much improved. So, floppy chest was an issue with this guy. There's no floppy chest. Actually, the peg that goes in there is monstrous and very snug. The backpack hitch, this little mechanism. Sometimes, if you're handling it a lot, it will come undone, but it's not floppy, I think. Once you get it up there, you can see that it reaches and pegs nicely. Has a reputation, and maybe we can take a peek and transform it when we transform it as well. But these tabs broke for a lot of people because they're just so thin in how they connect to the base of the back end there. That has not changed. I mean, those things just, as I look at them, it's like, wow, surprised it hasn't broke on me yet. But I've had no issue, but I would say you still need to be very careful with those pegs. The elbow, I think, is still some delicate engineering in there. Double joint in there. Oftentimes I'm trying to just pinch them so they both work together. But no issues. Again, just definitely looks like a fragile piece. And I've been careful with it. Then on the lower half of the body, definitely exploding knees was an early issue. That might have been fixed in the V2. Definitely some of these issues with elbows and knees were definitely fixed in V2. You can check that out. Again, it's a situation where you can find yourself getting a lot of torque because it's a double joint there. But the ratchet isn't too tight, so that helps. I find my knees work pretty well. And again, sometimes I'm just kind of in the middle of the knee to make sure I'm not damaging it. But so far, so good. Again, it looks still fragile. And then the last thing really is the shin panels, which can still be a bit fickle. I mean, there's just a lot of parts there that need to come together to kind of make it happen. But I've had no issues with anything breaking. Again, only pushing something as far as it will go is sort of a constraint you need to watch. If I push that too far, I'm sure I could still break it. So just being aware of those things and how they fit together, because tolerance is overall an issue with how this figure is engineered. It's just everything's got to be so perfect. Again, I don't think from a design perspective, this release altered any of those, but I do feel there's something there with tolerances and pegging and stuff that has improved, things like the chest and also things like how these will peg in car mode transformation, you'll see. Okay, let's go ahead and transform Hot Rod into his Hot Rod car mode. So I have the bot starting off in Hot Rod mode. First thing we want to do is just kind of untab the backpack up there and get this folded out. A lot of double hinges on this thing sometimes. Just make sure you're careful with those. So we get this all the way folded out. Then we want to just give it a rotation right here at the base. And this is one of those things I don't love either because I feel like it's a lot of torque on a long, slender sort of thing. But we're careful here. We'll get this rotated around. So there we go. Mine is like super tight for some reason. From here, if you just kind of lay this back panel down nice and flat, you'll want to just twist the waist around like this. Back of the car, underside of the car. Then we go to work on the legs. Kind of push this up for some visibility here. You want to just open up the shin panel here, like this. This then panel on the side is just on like a lever. So give that a little push forward. Want to give this a twist to the inside, so we're exposing a peg hole right here. And then the shin, we want to give a twist around at that calf point, because you want the front of the calf there, which has a peg, to be on the outside. It's going to go in that hole I had just pointed out to you. And then absolutely critical here, and where I've had some more fickle areas is the foot with all these moving pieces in here. I want to rock this big joint all the way up. And it's got like a little break there, basically. The big nub that stops that from moving. And when I try to move it back, it stops. But I want to kind of get this at this type of angle. I've kind of got this piece all the way back. Got this straight up, and that's sort of like that. So kind of like King Tut with the ankle. And then what you're going to want to do is lift this back section up so you get some space to slide stuff together here. But with this double jointed knee, we want to bend all this up. This is where I'm just super careful of the torque I put on this thing. The lower knee likes to bend, the upper knee sometimes not. So work on that, get that going first, and then the lower knee will kind of come over a bit easier. You got to deal with some clearance here. You can kind of use the waist a bit if you want. The foot has to go inside of here. So sometimes a little pivot in the waist will help that. This panel goes like on top of the back section there, and this one will go on top of the front section. So a lot of stuff needs to kind of come into place here. Having that flat down, and again, fickle here. Double hinge, just make sure you handle that all right. That'll peg there. Around back here, there is a peg deep down in there as well. And again, this one is always just my concern. It's already started to move. Just to make sure you've got that at the right angle. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get the hands in place. Same thing on the other side then. If we just flip up the panel there, give that a lift. Turn this to the inside so we get the hole on the outside. Spin the calf section so that the front of the calf goes to the outside as well. So we've got peg and hole lined up. And again, foot rocked all the way up and back. And then basically kind of King Tut mode. Same thing. Let's kind of fold this up then. Our double jointed knee, be careful of that. And then we'll just fold it up and around. Put that over. Originally, I think the tabbing on a lot of guys was really poor down here. I think it's better on mine, but it creates other tolerance issues, particularly at that ankle section that I was mentioning. In steps 3 and 4, basically just making those tabs of the black panels I had mentioned. So for step 5, then we're basically bringing the rest of the back end together, which means getting these double hinges nice and level, flipping out your kind of rocket booster effect here, and then just getting all this down over the back of the figure, where these pegs here come in pretty huge, despite their apparent fragility. For step 6 here, we'll turn the head around, the arms going like this. Unpeg the chest from the windshield. See how strong that peg is? It's the windshield that wants to move, not the chest. So I have to kind of get under here to separate those and flip that around. For step 7 then, the big chest peg gets folded in to that little slot, and you have this just little spring-loaded maneuver. Get these arms out of the way. You want to flip the front end. My clearance is really tight, but you just give it a little twist like that. Then you pull out the front end of the car, slides out, flip up the nose. You just want to take the hand and rotate it and fold it down underneath. Nothing really special happens with the hand. Here's what you want to do. You want to make sure the elbow section is in there in the groove, because when you rotate this piece, like a third hand here, you want that to go over the top of that. You rotate it in like that. Flip out the tailpipe here by unpegging it from the arm, flipping it back, and then giving it a twist around. The peg faces the car. And then here for the arm by the elbow, you want to push it together. Takes the length out. Okay, so let's do the same thing on the other side. Again, hand underneath, just folded. Elbow section, nice and straight. Rotate the bicep piece over the top of that little elbow plate. Do the inside. And then push it together. And then unpeg the pipe. Flip it over. And then give it a rotation so the peg faces the car. Okay, now for step 9, we're just going to bring the arm underneath here. There are just some cover panels that you need to kind of open up. And then the arm is just going to slide into here. I think already I can tell my ankle, which has been an issue on this side, is going to continue to be an issue. Let's try this side. And open up the panels here. Slide that in. Kind of push this piece of pipe back. Close that panel up. And I think one thing I skipped on step 5 here is you just rotate this pipe back, because this pipe has a peg that you want to go right there. So that's how you want this to peg together. Can be tricky getting the hands in the right spot, working against that ankle joint. There's a peg right down here by the foot and a peg in the arm that should come together. Step 10 here, then the crotch piece is just to kind of flush that down. And then you pull the tires straight down, the rear tires. Could really do that at any time, but they just pull straight down. But here it is in car mode, 99% of the way there, just some little nits bugging me. You probably wouldn't notice if I didn't point them out, but again, still a nice looking vehicle of hot rod, just totally whacked out scale. But again, as a standalone hot rod piece in the bot mode and the car mode, I think it looks pretty good. In the car mode is a couple gimmicks. You can open up the canopy here. And there's some detail in there, center console, steering wheel, stuff like that. You can kind of do his target master thing here on the engine. You can flip up this little black peg hole there. You can grab one of the guns. Stick that in there like that if you want it as well. So then from here, if we want to put him into Rodimus Prime mode, and if we open up the canopy here, get this back section unplugged again carefully, because these clips we know are super delicate right here. So I think if you unclip the back section and kind of get your fingers underneath these things, you can just sort of lift them up. So we lift this up again, fold in the rocket boosters. Again, give it a rotation on this kind of centerpiece here. Fold that into the canopy. And then this piece will slide back. Here you can see that slide back just a bit. So this should look stacked up like this when you're all set. This actually slides back, a good tip of the finger more. Just had to get it close in to slide it all the way back. See how that kind of folds up on top. Step 3 then for going to Rodimus mode is flip these back. Give them a twist. Put them back into the side of the arm where they came from. And also just flip this section forward as well. And just rotate it right on top. And we'll do that on the other side. You can unpeg, twist, peg into the side of the arm. Rock it back, flip it over. And if we grab the big trailer here, you basically have the whole Rodimus thing underneath of it. Let's just flip this out. And then this untabs here. I like the passenger side door, I guess, to swing it open. Then you're basically taking your modified figure and you're going to slide him in there. So we get that slid in. Let's bring that over the top then here. And there's pegs. Like right here's a peg. One on the other side as well. Make sure you got your pipes going inside of the trailer pipes. And then of course here we've got this little section to close off and peg as well. So here he is in Space Winnebago mode, looking very good. Easier to put together. I mean, basically it becomes like a big panel former. It's all one piece, save for just tucking in the hot rod car. So everything is a little more forgiving. Just a couple key tabs. It keeps it all together, and it does look clean overall. You've got the rubberized tires there, the silver rims, the nice flames, the color. That reminds me so much of the G1 toy that I used to have as a kid. Good size to it, good tune accuracy as well. This figure is all about being Rodimus Prime, really. It's why you would want to get it for a Rodimus Prime representation. This could be a little more perfect up top here, where you get some gappage with some of these panels coming through and they don't quite sit perfectly flush. But not terrible in the grand scheme of things. Still looks really good. Now I'll quickly show you here the gimmick in this boat as well. The canopy can open. And I guess there's seats in there. There's nothing really. It looks like beds, actually. It's camping, space camping. So there you have it, guys. MP-9, Rodimus Prime is why you'd pick this guy up, of course. Like I said, still holds his own amongst the leader class here and the more recent masterpieces, certainly from a scale and aesthetic perspective. And even the articulation is all there as well. In terms of the quality of the figure, feels all right to me. Again, the design is the same. So those delicate areas still look to be delicate. But again, a couple transformations in here back and forth, and I've had no issues. Definitely have to pick this guy up and actually open him up. I had been keeping one mitten sealed box in my collection for some time, and when I heard the reissue was coming, I sold that off in hopes that this would be a nice one and a safer one to open up, and I'm pleased with what I've got in my hand. If you're in the US, check your US e-tailers. Probably going to be one of the better spots to pick them up. But again, I'll put some links in the description below so you can price shop a bit. So be sure to check those out below if you're looking to pick up Rodimus or really any of your Transformers shopping needs. All right, guys, thanks for checking in. See you next time.